If a bodybuilder is expecting to grow a pound of muscle a week or a pound of muscle a month and he's not seeing those gains, well, then he's going to become hysterical and start training more often and increase his protein intake and so forth. But if you can develop a firm grasp, if your mind can envelop totally just how slow this muscle growth process is, and it is my firm belief that you will be less inclined to commit a lot of the ridiculous dietary errors and training errors bodybuilders are so accustomed to committing. Just how slow is the growth process? Well, will everyone here agree to the fact that gaining even 10 pounds of muscle a year is a tremendous achievement? Anybody here grow more than 10 pounds of muscle this year? Not 10 pounds of body weight, that's easy. 10 pounds of pure muscle. It doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't a whole hell of a lot, but look over the long term, 5 years, and that's how you have to look at your bodybuilding career over the long term. Nobody became Mr. America in 1 year. Gaining at that rate of speed in 5 years, you would gain 50 pounds of muscle, which is enough to transform the average adult male weighing 165 into a 215-pound Mr. Olympia. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of Mr. Olympia competitors weigh under 215. Was there anybody, Chris Lund, who weighed more than 215 this year as Mr. Olympia?
Olympia? No, far from it.
No. 215 is even beyond the weight of most Mr. Olympia competitors. So 10 pounds of muscle mass gained per year is going to be beyond the reach of most of you. But let's use that hypothetically. Let's say we can gain 10 pounds of muscle growth, or 10 pounds of muscle in 1 year. But we don't think in terms of a year, in blocks of a year, or in blocks of 5 years. We think about daily progress, daily workouts, and so forth. And if you think 10 pounds of muscle growth in 1 year is slow, it's unbelievable how slow growth is on a daily level. If you were to gain 10 pounds of muscle a year, what would that come out to on a daily level? Well, 10 pounds in 1 year. How many days are there in a year? 365. Any math whizzes in the audience? I figured it out already for training. 0.027 pounds of muscle gained per day, which is the same as 12 grams, or less than half an ounce. That's not enough to register on the body weight scale. And yet, how many of you weigh yourself every day looking for some kind of weight gain? If you're seeing weight gains every day, then you're not gaining muscle. What are you gaining?
Fat.
Fat. If you were to gain 10 pounds of muscle a year, again, which we all agree is more than what most of us are capable of, you're not even going to see a 1 pound gain per month. So it's almost ridiculous to ever weigh yourself. What you should gauge your progress by is simply your appearance. But think of how minuscule this is. 12 grams of muscle gained per day. That's if you're gaining 10 pounds of muscle a year. It's ridiculously slow. And yet, when we don't seem to be gaining fast enough, what we do is increase our training time, increase our intake of protein, and so forth. These things don't hasten the muscle growth process. They slow down the muscle growth process. Eating more food will not cause you to gain muscle weight fast. Most of us think muscle equals protein. When you think of protein, you think of muscle. When you think of muscle, you think of protein, vice versa. Just so happens that muscle is comprised of 70% water, 22% protein, 6 to 8% lipids and inorganic materials. So, the primary constituent of muscle tissue is not protein, but water. Does that mean that we hasten the muscle growth process by drinking 10 gallons of water a day? Many bodybuilders operate under the assumption that if muscle is protein, well then the more protein we eat, the faster we grow. We can't eat enough protein because muscle is made of protein. Well, if you recognize the fact that it's made of water, you would think then, well, the more water you drink, the faster you'll grow. So what happens when you drink more water than you need?
Pass it on.
You pee a lot. But you don't have the same impunity with protein because protein contains calories. And you eat more calories than you need to maintain yourself, what happens? You excrete it in part, and the excess turns to fat. And protein can make you just as fat as carbohydrates or fats. They all contain calories, and it's excess calories that make you fat.
A friend of mine took mega doses of protein, and he didn't gain any fat. Took mega doses of protein, just took lots of it.
Yeah.
And gained no fat whatsoever. As a matter of fact, his strength level increased. So that would indicate a...
Reduced or went up?
Oh, increased.
By taking mega doses of protein?
Well, not alone, but also training also. But he, when he took
that doesn't prove anything. That just proves that he was eating equal to or less than his maintenance needed calories. I'm not saying by eating excess protein alone you'll get fat. By eating excess number of calories. If you're taking in a certain number of calories beyond your maintenance needed calories, and if those calories are comprised of protein, you'll get just as fat as if those calories were comprised of carbohydrates.
I see. So he could have been deficient in other areas of his diet.
Yeah. He was growing in spite of his ignorance, which is the case in most cases. Okay. So do you get a better idea now how slow the growth process is? Again, this is hypothetical. If we were to gain 10 pounds of muscle a year, averaged out on a daily basis, it would come out to less than half an ounce, which is not going to show up on the scale on a daily basis. So if you've been weighing yourself to see weight gains every day, stop doing that. Because you're not going to gain muscle on a daily basis unless you started out from a grossly underweight condition. If you started out grossly underweight, it's very easy to normalize your body weight. But once you reach a normal body weight for your height, then adding additional muscle mass seems almost impossible. And 10 pounds a year is, again, a considerable achievement. Actually, 5 pounds a year is not bad. Let's say, again, hypothetically, that everyone in this room is going to return in a year. Next November 15th, we're all going to be 10 pounds of muscle heavier. How much food will we have to eat to gain 10 pounds of pure muscle without adding any fat? Well, first of all, you've got to recognize that 1 pound of muscle tissue contains 600 calories. This is true in all human beings. It's true for Chris Lund, myself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you, everybody. If you were to surgically excise 1 pound of muscle tissue, place it in a device known as a calorimeter, it would give off 600 calories of heat. Now, if you were to gain 10 pounds of muscular mass in 1 year, how many calories would you have to consume over and above your maintenance needed calories to gain 10 pounds of muscular mass? 6,000. If 1 pound of muscular mass contains 600 calories and you want to gain 10 pounds, then you've got to consume 600 times 10. Or 6,000 calories a year over and above your maintenance needed. 6,000 calories a year, not 6,000 extra calories a day, 6,000 extra calories a week, a month, 6,000 extra calories a year. But again, we don't think in terms of a year, we think in terms of days. How many calories extra will we need every day? Divide 365 again, as that's the number of days there are in a year. You come out with approximately 16 extra calories a day over and above the maintenance needed calories to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year. But you're not going to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year simply by eating 16 extra calories over and above your maintenance needed calories. The process of eating itself has nothing to do or contributes nothing to the growth process. What's the first requisite? You've got to stimulate growth first. Then you've got to provide adequate nutrition to maintain your existing physical mass. Then you've got to provide just a tiny bit extra to allow for that tiny bit extra growth on a daily basis. Again, keep in mind how minuscule growth is on a daily basis. You've got to train hard enough to stimulate growth first. Then you've got to provide enough nutrition to maintain your existing physical mass. This is where your maintenance needed calories comes in. And you've got to provide just a tiny bit extra nutrition to provide for that tiny bit extra growth that you might stimulate on a daily basis. I say you might stimulate. The fact of the matter is the majority of us in here already eat more than we need to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year. That's why we're all so ripped, because we're getting too many calories. If you're not growing muscular mass now and you're eating sufficiently, and it's obvious to me everybody here is eating sufficiently at least, then what's the reason you're not growing? You're not stimulating muscular growth because you're not training hard enough. Very rarely is the answer to a problem, a growth problem, nutrition, especially in America or Canada, because everybody eats more than adequately. And I'm not suggesting that you count your calories this exactly every day to make sure that you grow just muscular mass. What I'm trying to point out by doing this arithmetic is that you don't have to force feed yourself hundreds or even thousands of extra calories a day or hundreds of extra grams of protein with the mistaken notion that in so doing you'll hasten the muscle growth process. How many of you in here have an hourly feeding schedule or force feed yourself hundreds or thousands of extra calories a day thinking that you're going to grow faster? We've all done that at one time or another.
You're saying with 100% nutrition.
Well, again, it doesn't matter. You're going to be getting more than that anyway. And there is a certain metabolic cost in the growth process. So it may be 17 or 18 calories. So this is oversimplified. This is just to give you an idea of how slow the growth process is and how little you need to eat to not force muscular growth, but allow muscular growth.
How do you maintain your muscle mass every day? Like how do you calculate?
Well, that's what I want to explain. I'm talking about maintenance needed calories. Again, you've got to stimulate growth first. Then you have to eat enough to maintain your existing physical mass. That's what your maintenance needed calories does. There's a certain number of calories you eat every day that maintains you. You don't gain weight, you don't lose weight. See what I'm saying? That's your maintenance needed calories. Then to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year, you have to tack on 16 extra calories above that. That's how you gain and lose weight. How do you discover what your daily maintenance needed calories is? Every day for 5 days, write down every single thing you eat. From the milk you put in your coffee to the ketchup you put on your French fries. Everything. Then after each day is over, sit down with a calorie counting book. Calculate your total number of calories for that day. Do that every day for 5 days. Take the total number, 5 total numbers, add them up, divide by 5, and what do you have? You have your daily average calorie intake. For instance, let's say on a Monday, you consume 2,500 calories. On Tuesday, 2,700. In the middle of the week, you're getting tired and frustrated from your job, you had 4,500 calories really picked out. Thursday, you felt guilty. You atoned for your dietary aberration. You only had 1,500 calories. Friday, you're back to normal. you reach your daily average of around 2,500 calories. Every day for 5 days, you calculate your total calorie intake for that day. You take the representative 5-day period though. You don't change your diet during that 5-day period. Eat as close to normal as possible. What you want to do is find out what your daily average calorie intake is over a representative 5-day period. You take these 5 numbers and add them up. You get 13,700. Take that, 13,700. Divide by 5. And that's your daily average calorie intake, 2,740. Now, if over this 5-day period, you haven't gained weight or lost weight, what's true of this daily average calorie intake? That's your daily maintenance need of calories. You don't gain weight on it, you don't lose weight on it. That takes into account your basal metabolic rate and your voluntary physical activity output. Doesn't matter how fast your metabolism is, that's taken into account. If you haven't gained or lost weight on your daily average calorie intake, your basal metabolic rate's already taken into account. Your basal metabolic rate stays essentially the same unless your body mass is changing. Your body composition rate. You might stay, your body weight may stay the same, but you increase your muscle mass to fat ratio. Then your metabolism will change. Otherwise, your basal metabolic rate is always the same. And again, that's the idea. Choose a representative 5-day period. Don't change your diet. You want to find out what your daily maintenance needed calories is. Then if you want to gain 10 pounds of muscle a year, you tack on 16 calories. And you consume the grand total of 2,756. 16 extra calories a day can be gotten from 2 bites out of an apple. And again, how many of us in here are guilty of force-feeding ourselves hundreds or even thousands of extra calories a day with the mistaken notion that in so doing you'll hasten the muscle growth process? It's almost a too simplistic logic. If you eat more, you're going to grow faster. You will. You'll grow fat faster. There's no doubt about that. But again, the muscle growth process is not so simple. The first requisite is, again, what? Stimulate growth. You stimulate growth first, then you eat adequately to maintain your existing mass, 2,740 calories, then just a tiny bit extra. But again, it's probably safe to assume that the majority of us in here already get more than 16 extra calories we need every day. So if you're not growing, it's not because of the inadequate nutrition, inadequate intensity. As simple as that. Any questions? How much extra protein do we need?
Do you require any more or any less calories per day because of muscle mass you have that was compared to somebody else?
But again, that's taken into account. I would choose a 5-day period and write down everything I eat. If I'm not gaining or losing weight, then that's already taken into account. It will make a difference, yeah. But that's why I do it for myself and why you do it for yourself. It's taken into account when you use a 5-day period when I do this. You probably need less calories than I do. As your mass increases, you burn more calories, up to a certain point. There seems to be a certain point beyond which you go in physical mass where your metabolism actually slows down. I'm not sure where that point is, but I've noticed that the more massive a bodybuilder becomes beyond a certain point, he seems to require less and less food. Have you ever noticed that, Chris? The bigger bodybuilders, the really massive bodybuilders, can't eat anything, or they get fat very easily. I noticed Lou Ferrigno, if you've ever seen Louis, always has a sweat going. It's because all physical organisms create heat. In proportion to their physical mass. And they radiate heat in proportion to their surface area. But what happens as you get bigger and bigger, your mass increases at a greater rate than your surface area can radiate that heat. And the first thing your calories are used for is to maintain body heat. So as you get bigger and bigger, you need less calories because your surface area doesn't grow fast enough to radiate the heat. Your body's always getting warmer and warmer as you get bigger and bigger. So you need less and less calories. If you're talking about calories, a lot of bodybuilders are preoccupied with protein. How much extra protein will we need to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year? Well, again, we said we needed approximately 16 extra calories a day to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year. And as I cited before, muscle tissue is comprised of approximately 25%, actually 22% protein. But for the sake of argument, let's say that muscle tissue is comprised of 25% protein. So out of those 16 calories, about 4 of those calories should be protein calories. It just so happens that 1 gram of protein contains 4 calories. So to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year, we need to consume 1 gram of protein beyond maintenance need of protein every day to grow 10 pounds of muscle a year. And yet again, how many of us in here consume hundreds and hundreds of grams of protein a day, thinking we need all that protein to grow muscle at a faster rate? We've been so brainwashed into believing it. I know a man, a reasonably intelligent man, who, if he doesn't have his hourly protein drink, believes his bench press will go down 50 pounds. And it does, because he believes it. It's a placebo effect, the power of suggestion, or the power of deception.
Are there not certain foods that are more growth promoting than others?
No.
That's one spot.
They're all broken down in the same essential elements, amino acids, glucose, what have you, fatty acids. Doesn't matter. In order to be used by the human body, they're all broken down into exactly the same thing.
I was at Starbucks and I bought a box of unflavored gelatin, and it said it was composed of 85% protein. Would that be a viable source of protein?
I think that gelatin is considered an incomplete protein, and that it doesn't contain all the 8 essential amino acids. But if you're eating a normal diet otherwise, you can probably get the rest of the amino acids to complement those and make it a complete protein. But I wouldn't eat just gelatin for protein. Is that true? Does anybody know gelatin isn't a complete protein?
Yes, that's right.
Incomplete protein.
What's your own maintenance level and what happens when you do your high intensity workout day?
Well, high intensity training or any kind of weight training actually doesn't burn that many calories. And the calories that it does burn are sugar calories. The worst way to train for definition, which is a misnomer in itself, is to lift weights. Because weight training has to use sugar as fuel. Doesn't matter how you train. Mike Mentzer's way or Arnold Schwarzenegger's way or Larry Scott's way or Robert Kennedy's way. Weight training, any kind of weight training is considered a high-intensity activity. And all high-intensity activities depend entirely upon glucose as fuel. So if you're trying to lose weight or lose fat to get cut up, weight training is the worst way to do it. I think it's 90% glucose it uses. Whereas aerobic activities use up to 80 or 90% fat as fuel. So if you're looking to get cut up, use high-intensity weight training, very brief periods of weight training to maintain your muscle mass, and spend as much of the rest of the time as you have doing aerobic activities to burn fat. This is not an opinion, it's a fact. It can be backed up by any exercise physiologist, medical doctor, Mike Mentzer. Simple as that. No. The only time I use I use aerobics occasionally just to maintain cardiovascular fitness. But before a contest, I use a lot of aerobics.
Do you find to be enough cardiovascular?
Not really. When you're doing specifically high-intensity training, you're training specifically for muscular mass. You can train specifically for muscular mass or specifically for cardiovascular increase. This is where the term specificity of training comes in. If you want to train specifically for cardiovascular fitness, then you've got to do highly repetitive, low-intensity exercise. High-intensity training does not build the kind of cardiovascular fitness that low-intensity training does. You've got to train with low-intensity, highly repetitive activities, jogging, bicycle, and so forth. You will develop a certain amount as opposed to not doing any kind of activity. But it's not in the same order as real aerobic training. You've got to train specifically for one or the other. You can divide specificity and train a little bit for building size and mass, and a little bit for cardiovascular, but you won't improve as rapidly as if you can train specifically for one or the other. In other words, you have a certain amount of adaptive ability. You can divide it 100% or give it 100% towards developing mass, or give it 100% towards developing cardiovascular fitness. Or you can divide it in half. Give half of it to developing cardiovascular fitness and give it half to developing mass. But you won't improve as rapidly in either area by doing it that way. If you want to develop muscles as fast as you can, then train specifically for size and mass. If you want to develop cardiovascular fitness as fast as you can, train specifically for that. Don't divide it in two. Any other questions? Okay. What is the best way to eat then to build muscular mass or to build a large muscular body? Simply eat a well-balanced diet. Actually, the most important aspect of eating a well-balanced diet is that it maintains health. This is something most of us learned in, 8th grade biology or 12th grade health, whatever, high school. And this is something we often forget. The first requisite in building a strong, healthy body is maintaining health. And the best way to maintain health is to eat a well-balanced diet. A well-balanced diet is one that is comprised of 60% carbohydrates, 25% protein, 15% fats. That means if your daily maintenance needed calories is 3,000, out of those 3,000 calories, 60% should be carbohydrates, 25% protein, 15% fats. If in fact your daily maintenance needed calories is 3,000, then 60% or 1,800 should be carbohydrates. That's quite a bit of carbohydrates. According to the American Senate Subcommittee on Nutrition and all of your reputable nutritional scientists and physical educators, a well-balanced diet is comprised of 60% carbohydrates, 25% protein, 15% fats. You will find those quacks and fattists who say eat the majority of your calories from protein. In most instances, those people also sell protein. They have a vested interest in distorting nutritional realities. Carbohydrates next to water are by far the most important nutritional element anybody, not just a bodybuilder, but anybody can consume. The most important reason being our nervous systems, our brain, our spinal cords, our peripheral nerves derive 99.9% of their nutrition from the one thing we've been taught is the worst thing we can eat, sugar, glucose. It's the most important thing you can eat. Pure, simple sugar. Your brain derives almost 100% of your nutrition for your brain comes from sugar. It's sugar. How many in here have been on a low-carbohydrate diet before? Everybody. What's one of the first things you notice in a low-carb diet? Weak. Tense. Edgy. What else? Can't seem to think right. Short-term memory is impaired. Concentration is impaired. You start dreaming about chocolate instead of sex. First requisite. You can't have sex without carbohydrates. Think about it that way. What are these signals? These signals are your nervous system sending out for the thing that it needs the most, sugar. If you've ever been around a bodybuilder who's been on a low-carb diet for 4 to 6 weeks, you'll see that it also impairs personality. Your personality is a function of your nervous system. And if your nervous system is not getting the fuel it needs from carbohydrates, your personality is going to become deranged, and I mean deranged. I've seen bodybuilders do weird things, and I often wonder if the weird things that bodybuilders do aren't the result of being on low-carbohydrate diets for too long. Anybody who's been around bodybuilding for a long time behind the scenes, you know a lot of bodybuilders are crazy. They do strange things. I think it's because of the low-carbohydrate diet. It affects your thinking processes. It affects your personality. Low blood sugar will definitely cause an erratic personality. I mean, it's in all the medical journals. Or refined and unrefined. By the time it gets into your bloodstream, the carbohydrate has to be in the form of glucose. Makes no difference at all. Whether it's from a candy bar, an apple, a baked potato, it has to be in the form of glucose for your brain to use it. It's not good to eat too many refined or simple sugars because they go into your bloodstream too fast and cause all kinds of problems. Get your carbohydrates from as many natural sources as possible. But if you have a hankering to eat an occasional candy bar, again, don't think the world's going to stop revolving. It's not going to hurt you. Try to get the reason nutritional experts advocate that you get your carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables is because those things also lend themselves to a well-balanced diet. They contain vitamins, minerals, and other things that are contained in a well-balanced diet. That's another good point. How do you get a well-balanced diet? Very simple. If there's one issue in bodybuilding that's been confused, it's this whole thing about nutrition. Nutrition is really so simple. All you need to do is eat a simple, well-balanced diet, which is really nothing more than basic food groups. This may seem oversimplistic, but this is the truth of the matter. Fruits, vegetables, cereals, and grains, dairy products, and meat. You get 2 portions every day of each one of those, then you will be getting a well-balanced diet. Even simpler, I often say, eat a little bit of everything, but not too much of anything, and you'll be getting a well-balanced diet. Diet is really very simple. Complicating the matter and confusing it by reading all of these crazy articles you read in Iron Man and Muscle Fitness are designed to sell you more products. By confusing you and muddling the issue, they divest you of your hard-earned dollars much easier. It's really very simple. Eat an adequate, well-balanced diet, train as hard as you can, and pray occasionally, and you will perhaps someday be a Mr. Olympia. Kiss the right ass.
How about food combinations we could do that?
That seems to be the most prevalent question lately is food combination. I don't know a damn thing about it, really. I've been combining foods haphazardly my whole life, and I haven't suffered that badly yet. A lot of nutrition seems to be, to me, splitting hairs. People get so involved in their nutrition, which is okay. I mean, I'm not judging that. But it's a whole hell of a lot simpler just to, again, eat a little bit of everything and not too much of anything. Train hard. And don't split hairs, unless you get off on it. It's up to you. But I don't know. Anybody here know about food combination? Lou does. Don't talk about it now. Yeah. Pardon? Should.
Well, there you have it.
This is gas. Can be. Solid. A well-balanced diet. The question inevitably comes up, then where do supplements fit in? Well, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, then theoretically you don't need supplements, because a well-balanced diet is a well-balanced diet. You're getting everything you need. All the vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and water you need to maintain health. However, it's often not possible to get a well-balanced diet due to time pressures, family pressures, job pressures. We have to skip meals here and there and so forth. If you suspect that you're not getting a well-balanced diet, then by all means include an all-around vitamin and mineral tablet or a protein supplement. But don't waste hundreds of dollars a month that you could be investing in my courses, t-shirts, on useless vitamins and minerals that you're just going to piss out anyway. And you can see it if you take too much vitamin B. It turns your urine yellow. You're literally pissing away your money. Excuse the French, but that's the way it is. Take supplements when you think you may not be getting a well-balanced diet. I do take supplements when I'm training very hard before a contest on a low-calorie diet, because once your calorie level does reach a certain low level, you can't get a well-balanced diet. Nutritional scientists say once you go below 1,500 calories, then it's impossible to get all the vitamins, proteins, minerals, so forth that you need to maintain proper health and, of course, build a big, muscular, beautiful physique. Which is why we're all here. We all want to be big muscle men. Very lofty goal indeed. Any other questions? Yeah, there's carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is the most efficient fuel. Good question. For high-intensity training, or again, any kind of anaerobic training. Anaerobic activity, which is what high-intensity or weight training activity is, demands sugar as fuel. The worst way to get cut up is to lift weights, because weight training does not burn fat as fuel. It's a simple medical fact. It's not even open to debate. Weight training burns sugar, and if you're not getting sugar from fruits or vegetables, cereals or grains, where's your muscle going to get sugar to continue contracting? From your own muscle. There's an amino acid contained in your muscle tissue called alanine, which will be broken down, sent to your liver, and turned into glucose. That's why carbohydrates are called protein sparing. It spares your protein from being used for energy. And you can always tell when you start using muscle for energy. Very simple. I pointed out earlier that 1 pound of muscle tissue contains 600 calories. 1 pound of fat contains how many calories? 3,500. Okay. Now if you were to start burning muscle tissue for energy, how many pounds of muscle would you have to burn to get the same energy yield from 1 pound of fat?
About 6.
Almost 6 pounds. You will know when you're starting to use muscle for energy, because you will start losing weight very rapidly. Very rapidly, like 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds a day. So let's look at the discrepancy, the disparity there. 1 pound of muscle contains 600 calories. 1 pound of fat contains 3,500 calories. To get the energy yield from muscle that you would from fat, you'd have to burn 6 pounds of muscle. So it's ridiculous to go on low-carbohydrate diets to get cut up, because you will inevitably lose some muscle. You have to. The best way to get cut up is to go on a reduced calorie diet, reduce your daily calorie intake to below your maintenance need of calories. Again, if you need 3,000 calories a day to maintain yourself, you need 3,000 calories a day, not to gain weight, not to lose weight, but maintain yourself. And all of a sudden you reduce your daily calorie intake to 2,000 calories, then you're going to be 1,000 calories deficient. Where's that 1,000 calories going to come from? Your body fat. That's what body fat is. It's stored energy. Now these 2,000 calories can be 2,000 calories of pure table sugar, and you'll still get ripped. That's right. Mike Mentzer is saying you can get ripped eating pure table sugar. I'm not advocating it. Please don't think that. I've had people run out and say, wow, my mother said go eat pure table sugar. Theoretically, you can get ripped You can become highly defined eating nothing but ice cream, as long as what? Your daily total calorie intake is below your maintenance needed calories. Then you have to resort to body fat for energy.
Twinkies, fudge rounds, and Little Debbie snack cakes, not exactly what we'd call diet foods, but a nutrition professor lost 30 pounds eating just that. Kansas State University professor Mark Haub spent 10 weeks eating Twinkies, brownies, zebra cakes, and corn pops. He consumed no more, now this is important, he consumed no more than 1,800 calories a day. Haub did this to prove that in weight loss, what matters most is the total calories in the food you're eating, not the nutritional value. After 10 weeks, he was 27 pounds lighter and his bad cholesterol was down 20%. Haub did throw in vitamins, protein shakes, and some vegetables, as well as moderate exercise. And he says he is not recommending it for everyone. It was just a calorie counting experiment.
I'm not advocating that because, again, it's not a well-balanced diet. Eat a well-balanced diet, but eat a reduced calorie diet, that's all. It doesn't have to be all protein. I know the majority of my fellow Mr. Olympia competitors woke up every morning during their training period, grumpy bastards, because all they had to look forward to was tuna fish and water. Anybody who goes to bed hungry and wakes up to tuna fish and water is going to be grumpy. But I woke up in the morning always looking forward to breakfast because I had bran muffins, oftentimes cake and cookies, fruits and vegetables. Really, I ate a wide assortment of carbohydrates. Often I would eat just carrot cake for breakfast and coffee because I knew I needed that sugar for the workout. But I didn't do it recklessly. I knew what my daily maintenance needed calories was. And as long as I stayed below that every day, I kept a daily record of my calorie intake. I could eat that cake with impunity and not get fat. I was getting ripped, as a matter of fact. I was eating ice cream at least 4 days a week before the Mr. Olympia contest. Again, not recklessly. I knew that I had to get under 2,500 calories a day. I was averaging about 1,800. So I was burning about 700 calories a day of fat. And I was actually burning more than that because I was so highly active. I was riding bicycle up to 40 miles a day. And I was literally getting cut up before my very eyes. Every day I'd wake up and I would see more definition. And the night before I just had an ice cream cone. I mean, it's ridiculous eating nothing but protein or tuna fish and water to get cut up. Not only is it not healthy and no fun, it's just ridiculous.
What percentage do you recommend having body fat level for normal training competition?
Well, I'm not sure. That's a good question. It's one I've been pondering lately myself. I'm in the process of losing body fat now. And I'm going to try to keep my body fat at 4 to 5% all year. Then before a contest, try to get down to 2.5. It's much easier staying lean as opposed to getting fat between each show and then having to drastically reduce your diet and kill yourself and again lose muscle mass. When you've got to diet severely, you inevitably lose some muscle mass. It's better to do as Clarence Bass suggests. Stay lean all year and try to build muscle. You don't have to add fat to build muscle, by the way. And then zero in before each contest, 6 to 8 weeks. I'm not sure what the proper number, maybe 6%, 7%. But it can be done. Get the body fat off and then eat an adequate, well-balanced diet that contains a maintenance number of calories. The worst thing to do is to get 40 pounds overweight, then go on a drastically reduced calorie diet down to, one baked potato and one egg a day, which inevitably results in a splurge after the contest and the adding of the 40 pounds of body weight. You look at any bodybuilder who goes on a zero-carb diet for a contest, what happens afterwards? They get fat. It's inevitable. It's a protective mechanism. The body doesn't want you to lose all its body fat. As far as your body is concerned, it's starving. It's dying. And it's going to protect itself again in the future from that same process by getting fat, putting on as much fat as possible. The best thing is to get lean slowly over a period of time and then maintain that lower body fat level sustainably by eating a well-balanced diet. If it's going up and down all the time, it will put stress on your nervous system. Stay lean and then zero in for a contest. If that's what you're into, training for contest.
But you find that you're stronger the higher body fat?
No, absolutely not. Body fat does nothing in the way of offering an advantage to body strength. It hinders body strength. They have found that intramuscular fat in between muscle fibers actually hinders contraction, makes you weaker. The leaner you are, the stronger you'll be. You should stay lean as much as possible. As much of the time as possible.
But track athletes were given candy bars and that, remember, before, and they say that was a quick energy boost. But apparently that's not true anymore, is it?
No.
They said that actually will bring it down to a lower...
Well, not a candy bar, because a candy bar actually contains more fat than sugar. And in part, the speed with which the sugar is taken up into the bloodstream is slowed down by the fat it's contained in. But sugar does not give you a quick energy rush. Actually, the energy you're living off of now is your stored glycogen. Every gram of stored sugar in a muscle contains 3 grams of stored water. Now, during a period of about 3 days on a low-carbohydrate diet, as you're continuing your weight training and burning up that stored sugar for energy, what happens to that sugar once it's used up for energy? It leaves the muscle. But once the stored sugar leaves the muscle, what happens to the water that was stored with it? The water leaves also. The first couple days on a low-carb diet, you'll notice you go to the bathroom a lot. That water is not coming from fat. Fat is only 15% water. Muscle is 70% water. You're actually losing your muscle mass on a low-carbohydrate diet. And I have a theory that that's the reason bodybuilders have gotten so heavily into steroids. Because of this diuretic effect of a low-carbohydrate diet. If you look back about 10 years ago, the advent of the low-carbohydrate diet in the bodybuilding scene, it very closely parallels the emergence of steroids on the bodybuilding scene. And I think what bodybuilders were doing unwittingly was using steroids, which retain water, to offset the diuretic effect of the low-carbohydrate diet. The bodybuilder was doing his curls and not getting a pump because he was getting no carbohydrates. And he found out when he took 2 more Dianabol pills, retained that much more water, and he could still get a pump. It's just a theory, but it's plausible. So you've got to have carbohydrates to build muscle. And you've got to have carbohydrates to maintain muscle. So if you're looking to build mass, you've got to have a large amount of carbohydrates in your diet. Not an untold number. Again, 60% of your daily maintenance needed calories. And when you're trying to lose fat and maintain muscle, you need sugar in your diet. As long as you're eating a reduced calorie diet, you can eat as many carbs as you want and still get ripped. Again, theoretically, you can eat pure table sugar and be as ripped as Muhammad Ali. No question about it. It's not even debatable. You can do it. I've done it. I've gone beyond the 60 percentile I mentioned. Before the Olympia, I was eating almost 80 and 90% carbohydrates. Tom Platz, who looked unbelievable this year's Mr. Olympia. You may not have heard, but Tom Platz got 3rd place, should have won the Mr. Olympia. Was probably around 2% body fat. In the last 3 days before the contest, he stayed at my home in Palm Springs to get some sun. And I couldn't believe my eyeballs when I saw him. His skin was like tissue paper. And he was eating 400 grams of carbohydrates a day. But he was performing a lot of aerobics, and he was getting less calories than he needed to maintain himself. It can be done.